So I begin my day by an alert showcasing this fucking mad lad driving a bus down these tiny Asian streets. It's all downhill, and he's drifting it through fucking hairpin turns. It's like, wow, we're getting a lot of videos on drifting now. And I know someone showed me this other video where these van buses were driving through a iced turn, and they drifted around them, and then they had a fucking sweeper truck and a dump truck roll through and drift through as well, and I'm like, these absolute fucking mad lads. Still can't hold a candle to the time on the movie Polar Express where the fucking mad king of them all drifted a fucking locomotive. Now that was metal. Of course, this is only a small highlight of the day. Though what I really want to get into is just the midwittery that went on yesterday during the show. For those of you unfamiliar, I do the occasional reading for stuff by Curvis Yarden, and Tom has basically done this whole week-long thing of mold buggery. When that video finally gets up, I'll put a link to it in the description at some point, so y'all can go check it out and see exactly what I was talking about. But during the show, Tom would pull people up out of the audience, and we'd discuss a few things. Had some people roll up and just get their 5 seconds of fame by being unproductive trolls who just would play loud music, so they could get their jollies. Nothing really upsetting, I think the one that really sticks out to me and just grinds my gears the most, because it was, at least the kids who were popping up to just play random soundboards and be wacky and weird, that shit was at least funny. We could all get at least a good chuckle out of that and kind of break up the occasional monotony that is just me droning on about this stuff. I try to make it entertaining, because I know that one of the reasons why Tom wanted to have somebody do the reading was because of somebody said the comments, like, I just can't get into the whole robot voice reading the whole thing, So I volunteered, and, that's where we're at. The behavior this individual demonstrated was not new or unknown to me. Like, I've run up against this before, and one of the recent things we talked about was a fucking dip going off on trying to appear the academic when he's really just he's really just looking for a fight, and that's the same gist I got from this individual. Now, I'm not proud of it, but I've been through the rigmarole that is the fucking healthcare system in terms of mental health and all this other stuff. It's a fucking sham, guys. Don't bother with it. The healthcare therapy scene as a whole is a hack profession. Do not waste your time with it. It's like, I've been through that about 14 times. I've seen 14 different therapists throughout most of my life, and it's made me more miserable than the last. It's the same rigmarole. It's the same bullshit. Okay, I have no idea where I was going with this tangent. Let me roll it back. All right. Oh, right, now I remember what I was getting to it. But one of the things that kind of stuck with me, I did pick up a few tidbits here and there. So, I don't know, maybe it had some kind of help. All I know is that I kind of stopped going because I was being suicidal and thinking too much suicide. And in the years since I have stopped going to therapy, my mindset has generally recovered. I do have depression spirals, but I don't think about killing myself anymore. So, yeah, that's apparently a thing. But one of the things that really stuck out is communication and how that works. It's not a two-way street, you know. It's a four-way intersection. There's what I say, but when I say something, you know, there's what you hear instead, how you interpret it. And there is also the reverse as well. There's what you say, and there's what I hear. You know, just for example, actually leading back into the issue that was caused beforehand, the individual in question, I can't remember his name, it's some unpronounceable Indian garglemesh, basically was challenging us to define progress. And the overall question, if I'm remembering it correctly, Tom hasn't uploaded the video yet, so I don't have time. I haven't been able to really go back over it. And, well, let me see if he has posted it. Maybe he has. Give me a minute here. I'm trying to find all this other stuff. Let me see. Revolution. There's the videos. Yeah, I just keep an eye on my videos right now. The most popular one seems to be my impressions on Revolution, where I kind of sit down and just kind of listen to Malcolm X, and I kind of give my opinions on this one. It's my most popular video. Okay. Bing is not helping. I'm not sure why. Let me just look it up him directly. There we go. Oh, he did post it. Okay. Alright. Well, let me scroll through it. It was 13 hours. Okay, so he did post it. I probably didn't see the link on this one, so. Well, fuck it. Give me half a minute. Let's see if I can figure it out, where exactly this whole thing came in. Oh, that's helpful. He kind of keeps that one here. So let's see. That's where that one came in. Oh, that was where I think we discussed the red pill. Yep. Here's the fucker in question. Okay, let me just play this, and we'll see what can be learned, if anything, from this. Being a natural armorer is as much about social fit. For instance, most gay people...
Not enough room for the individual to move around. So that's why he's saying, like, yo, armigers don't have enough kids. You know, it just is what it is. Like, when you move into a city, it's very difficult to have children. Being on a farm or in like a place where you have room to move around, there's usually lots of kids, and like kids are more of a help because of the fact that like kids are basically farm equipment on a fucking farm. So you want to have lots of them. You know what I mean? That's kind of that mentality. Yo, and man, listen, I don't know how to pronounce Sir Chun Chun. Yo, what up?
Hey, yeah. Well, I don't. What's the argument for having kids in the first place?
What did you say, man?
What's the argument for having kids in the first place?
Because like in order to have, you know what I'm saying, like government borrowing or like long-term social programs or the future of a country, you have to have people. Kind of important.
Sure. Okay, but it's not just have kids indefinitely. There's some value structure it bases it on. And
Like,
if it's just to support the state, then that seems to be circular.
well, like, you know, you have to have more like all right, so like your society doesn't have any future if you don't have any children.
Yeah, I'm not saying that. I'm saying like how many children do you have? Like what is the basis of it? If it's just to support the state, then it seems to be circular in a sense, just because you have kids just to support.
Okay, I kind of had to stop it there because I really just wanted to quickly get into a little bit there. So, from my understanding, and I'm sure this individual is going to jump me if it turns out that I'm wrong. You know, Tom's really not wrong here. And what he's getting at is that Tom has this view that everybody needs to move out of the big metropolis cities, go back to living rural suburbia style, where the family has a plot of land, they have a house, everybody lives on that land, and there's enough wide open spaces, for everybody to live comfortably. And his viewpoint is that living in these cities is not conducive to being human. Like, the fact that we're all packed into these cities is dehumanizing. And that's part of what we got into in the video there. We talked about the one economist who went to China, saw a bunch of ditch diggers, and he's like, why don't you use the heavy mover equipment, bulldozer and the like? And he said, well, we these people need work. And he said, well, if that's the case, why don't you just use spoons? And the point that was brought up there is that, you gotta give, like, heavy earth equipment is all good and dandy, but, you still gotta give the people some kind of work so that at the end of the day they can go home and feel satisfied. And why would you give them, proper shovels instead of just letting them dig with spoons and make things take longer? Well, then you're just flipping to the other end of the spectrum as far as cruelty goes. But I think that's the same gist that Tom is getting at here when he's, fuck, the words are on the tip of my tongue. It's what he's getting at in terms of the housing. The way we live now in the giant cities is that you pack everyone into these high-rises where everybody lives in like a 30 by 30 by 30 box, and they pack as many of us into these boxes and call them apartments as possible, so we're all within like a very small, tight city limit where, we can easily be ruled over, because it's a very small, tight area, so they don't have to have, it's easy for them to it's easy for the cathedral to police. And because humans were not meant to live like that, the desire to have children falls off dramatically. And he's not wrong about this. He's definitely not wrong. And I think I brought up that earlier later on in the argument itself. That in order for us to live healthy human lives and to live as humans, to be as humans, the way these fucking humanitarians say we should live, but, don't actually advocate any kind of change for. We need space. We need to be able to, get out, stretch our legs, and it's like there's a subconscious part of your brain where it has all the old instincts and mechanisms that we learned long ago, back when we were still grugs, That's a trend among the 501st, is we call each other grug and we speak in caveman. Long Rock grug. Secret grug think Long Rock grug need to tone down shooty shoot for grugs. Too strong, support grug not be able to use many rock thrower. That's kind of fun. But yeah. And, Tom does make a very excellent point in that if we don't have the space to, spread out and have kids, we're not going to have kids. Thus, the population, the birth rates fall down, we don't sustain replacement rates, and eventually the nation will dwindle and shrink until it is eventually overrun and destroyed by a more ambitious nation. And what I think I'm already seeing kind of the tip of the iceberg here now that I'm looking back on it. This weirdo is basically asking, like, what is the purpose of it? Because if it's for the purpose of maintaining the state, that just seems like a cycle. Well, how is that a bad thing? I mean, if you played any real city builder, especially 4X games like Stellaris, Sins of a Solar Empire, Banished, almost any kind of Paradox game. Surviving Mars, that's definitely a big one because I read the guidebook on that one. In order to basically maintain what you have from the ruler perspective, and that's what this chapter we just went over goes over. It's like, what does the next prince or ruler need to do? And it's like you got to maintain your population, because if you don't have a population, you don't have a nation. And you want to promote these virtuous engines within your society so that your society can actually function. Because when these engines start to break down and you no longer have that virtuous cycle of production, well, in these games, you eventually get overrun, ground out of existence, game over. The only thing that is left is the laughter of thirsting gods. Alright, so I think that's where it is, because this individual seems to think that virtuous cycles are a bad thing. I don't know. Let's continue listening in here.
The state, so the state can support you having kids. That is, it's okay.
But no. What is wrong with you? No, look, listen. All right, the future of your country, like the future of your life, the future of your society, the future of your people, the future of everything around you is dependent on a future, right? Like, legit, you can't just live for yourself, right? Living for yourself is dumb. Right, and people aren't going to do it as a whole, right? Like, you're just going to end up degenerating into like the worst type of terrible shit ever, right? You'll have like no basic like societal fucking values if you don't have children.
I agree.
Okay, yeah, that's where I was talking about. It's that virtuous cycle that allows a society to continue to exist.
You need children to sustain, but I'm not saying like you're suggesting even beyond that. You're suggesting like not just go to a civilization, maybe import people. You're saying have children and have them to a larger degree, like in farms, and not even modern farms, but farms like in the past, I assume. So I'm curious what you're defining, what the necessary amount of population is. If it's just indefinite, clearly that can have issues. So I'm curious what your value system.
Okay, I think this is about where Tom and I saw the red flag, and we started to realize that this was probably not going to be a productive conversation. But we try anyway, because that's really what we're trying to do on these streams, is kind of get these people thinking of, Tom wants to promote a new way, a different way, a better way than what we have now. And, as I can get that, I can understand that. And I think this is, yeah, a little dry. I think that this is, I kind of lost my train of thought here. But yeah, I think this is kind of where we saw these red flags starting to pop up. Because the way it sounds to us, again, this goes back to what I was talking about. There is what you say, what I hear, what I say, and what you hear. Because the way that I think I'm just going to call him Chun Chun. The way that Chun Chun is talking, and maybe Tom would probably weigh in on this one later on himself, because this is mainly from my perspective. The way he's talking here is that it sounds like it's a bad thing that that Tom basically wants to return to monkey. And, I kind of get into it later myself, that this is kind of where we diverge on those values there. But it's like he's asking for Tom's values, and my sneaking suspicion here is that he's looking for a way to just attack Tom for wanting to advocate for his way of life being better for everybody. I mean, I disagree. I think that the way technology has progressed is a wonderful thing, and I think we should try to utilize and adapt to it. But he does have a point in that some advancements in this technology have not been ideal for everybody.
Is so we could determine whether having kids is, or to whichever degree having kids is important, and it can't just be the state, because if it's the state, then
Okay, yeah, this kind of goes right back into what I was just talking about. Apparently, Chin Chin here sees the virtuous cycle of society as a bad thing.
it becomes too shallow and again circular.
Well, again,
To
you know what
go,
I'm saying? Like, all right, so like here's the mentality, right? Like the reason we're approaching it from this manner is because you're a king, right? You're looking at this from a macro sense. So if you're looking at this from a king sense, like you want people to be able to have children so that you're, you know what I'm saying, like your country and your countrymen and your fucking your what's the word I'm looking for here? Your shit, man. Listen, your country. Yeah, we'll go with your country. Your country can continue forward. If people don't have any kids in your country, then like you're going to be the last king there, right? Because like then like if you don't have any population, like eventually like all your population will be over the age of 65 and or 50, and a younger group can come in and just conquer you, right?
Yeah, I have lost many a game of Banished simply because I wasn't allowing my population to grow or shrink as necessary. I just let it stagnant. Everyone got to 60, died out before every winter. Game over.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this is my point to bringing that up. Economy doesn't necessarily grow, and even military power doesn't necessarily grow just because your population gets bigger. You can see the Spanish invading, like,
Well,
the
it does.
Aztecs and the Incans.
It does. It
They're,
does.
Okay. I am not sure how to process that. They always said hindsight was 20/20. Your economic power and your military power doesn't grow because your population has grown. Has this maniac never played Hearts of War? Hearts of War 4. I certainly haven't, but I've watched a lot of people play that one as well. Tommy K, Alpha Chat Ginger gamer there. I watched a lot of his Hearts of Iron 4 clips there, and he does point out a lot of neat things about that game as well. Fucking Paradox again. It's another fucking Paradox game, and there is there is a statistic in there called manpower that goes down as you go out and simulate World War II. And it's, it basically kind of acts as that, it kind of acts as how long can you afford the war to go on. And it goes up as you conquer nations, you incorporate their people into your growing nation as you conquer things, and allows you to field more units and replace more units as people die in conflict. It's like the more people you have in your nation, the more manpower you can field in your army, and the more people you have in your nation, the more purchasing power they had. Because this is my understanding of economics. The economy is good when there is the flow of trade, internally or externally, doesn't matter. It's like, when you have 40,000 people and trade is, everybody's buying, selling, doing business, and the flow of goods and money is exchanging hands fairly rapidly, we would say that nation has, a great economy. But even then, even if all 40,000 people of this, this tiny country, this tiny theoretical country, are trading with each other, everybody can do it. But compared to, say, like this imaginary country of 400,000 people, even if it was just half of them, we would, by the metrics that we would gauge economy, this smaller, this other imaginary nation is doing far better, than this tiny country of just 40,000 people. Like, if the country of 40,000 people is all, they're maximizing their efforts, their economy is booming, and everybody's giving 110%, and I mean everybody, it wouldn't even come close to a nation of 400,000 people where, like, a small fraction just needs to be more than that one country. Like, 60,000 people out of 400,000 people. Let's fucking do some math here. I can't even think. It's like roughly a fifth, a sixth, fifth. Fifth sounds about right. If only a fifth of this larger nation with more people are engaging in roughly, an equivalent manner, they're also giving it 110%, and the rest are just kind of, whatever. And they're barely giving, like, maybe another 10, 20% there. The economy of the larger nation, by the metrics, is going to be beyond anything that this other little tiny country can put out. Again, this is my basic bitch economics. I'm not an economist by any means. I'm sure any sort of real economist will probably come in here and be like, dude, that's not how this works, But maybe they'll at least say, hey, you've got the basic gist of it, but there's all these other variables that go into it. That's a conversation I'm willing to have, but I think I've kind of got the basic gist there. And he's saying that more manpower does not necessarily mean you have a stronger military or a better economy. Yeah, looking on back, this doesn't make any sense.
There's other. It can be a factor.
Yeah, look, when your population grows, demand grows in your economy.
Well, it correlatively can, but
no,
more
it does.
properly.
Like, when you have more people, there's more demand, so your economy grows.
And it's not necessarily true.
That is absolutely true.
Here, let me fling this in the direction I think you're trying to take this in. If you don't have kids, and eventually it's okay, this is kind of where I start to chime in there. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to nail down exactly what this guy is trying to get at. Again, there is what you're saying and what I'm hearing. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to remove whatever this barrier is, this confusion barrier, and understand what it is he's saying rather than just relying on what it is I'm hearing. It stagnates. What happens to your country, your nation, your society, whatever it is you're ruling over?
I wasn't claiming that you shouldn't have kids. I've already, said two
look,
times you should have kids.
I feel like you're being a pedantic. You're being a pedantic fucking like sideways individual.
Let me keep hitting this one, Tom.
No. Like, what it is is like, this is these bug men today, right? Legit.
Yeah. I think Tom lost patience before I did, and he's probably seen this before, and this is my real first time, I guess, dealing with a stranger in this kind of public manner. I am not a stranger to a flame war, but this is the first time I've actually engaged with somebody in a verbal contest like this. Probably why this whole thing is kind of, I'm still a little bit shocked about how it all turned out and why it's weighing on me so much.
Legitimately, you're a fucking bug man, right? Who don't want the responsibility of ever having a child, right? That's the issue.
That's not what I said. Have a kid, and I want to have kids. So that's not.
You don't want to have kids.
Let me hit this one, Tom. Let me hit this one, Tom. Okay, so you still want to? We still understand the prospect that it's going there. Are you asking how many kids we need to be having to maintain replacement levels, or what's the question on that angle?
Well, no, I'm asking for the justification because the range that was given wasn't just replacement. It seemed to be like up to even 13 kids per. So I'm wondering what the justification of that. It's not purely economic. It's not purely military. So I'm wondering what the value system or what the structure is that you're using.
It's all.
But it can't be because just because you have if you have 13 kids and they have $5 between them, then they're going to have the buying power of $5 still. So the question isn't whether you have more. Now it can correlate towards it, or it could seem to have it because a human has some innate necessity, like as in food or water or something like that, or housing even, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to all become businessmen who create all this kind of stuff.
No, but
but
they're
having more
going to be
GDP or the production values
they're
or
going to
allowing
be
easier
workers.
money.
They're going to be workers and individuals who can produce things.
Huh. Okay. Let me see if I can parse this. See, this is what happens when you go up against people that use this kind of mental gymnastics. What they're trying to do is confuse, bewilder, and baffle you into submission. And sitting here trying to puzzle out what this is and where they're going with it is meant to be an exercise in frustration, so you just give up. Why I'm sitting here trying to parse all this out, um, apparently, I'm not supposed to be parsing this out. I'm just supposed to accept it for what it is. But when you try to parse it out like I'm doing, you start to notice a lot of the you start to notice a lot of the inconsistencies. And really, that's where you can see I'm trying to really understand what it is. And the thing here that Chun Chun doesn't seem to understand is that having kids, that is, that's future vision. That's you investing in the future. That's why there's this whole fucking narrative around, kids being the future. It's not wrong. Um, it's a fucking corporate shtick and everything now. But in its base form, it's not wrong. Like, you're banking on the next generation being bigger than the last and bringing more prosperity, more security, and an overall better life to your society. And you got to invest. You got to invest in that and make sure that these kids have the best chance that they can be to grow up to be, better people. I mean, yeah, the kids themselves are, as Chun Chun says here, they're only going to have the buying power of like $5 if you go and say, here, kids, here's $5, go get yourself some candy or something. Yeah, sure, you know, you only have the $5 between them. But what happens in 20 years when they're all grown up and making more money? See, now, even if we account for the variables, one goes on to become a ditch digger, one becomes a musical composer, one becomes a business tycoon, one marries into a rich family, one is just living the life as a bum on the street and he's happy about it. Some people enjoy that lifestyle. No judgment. Um, but you know, it's the buying power is then radically different than just going to dad and him handing him $5. They're gonna use their life skills to increase their purchasing power from just, hey, dad gave us $5, to, hey, I earned 25 cents, $100,000 this day or the other. You can see that that improves in the future. All right. But yeah, it sounds like this person does not seem to understand future vision and investing into the future. I think this is probably going to be a running trend. But so far, we have now kind of shifted away from that one question. If I recall properly, this started off, and this is me kind of going through the timeline. Um, Okay, yeah, I lost it. See, this is what happens when you deal with mental gymnastics. It's really hard to follow, but you got to try. Um, but it's like, what is the value for having this many kids? Well, it's to make your society a better place in the future. That's not what I'm saying. Like, what is your value system to expose to have that many kids? Yeah, I'm starting to definitely look back and see it now that this individual is, they're not there for a productive discussion. They're looking for a fight.
And demand things, right? So they both will add, to the front and
It's
the back side of your economy.
It sounds like what
It
you're
would
trying
seem-
to ask is, what is the ceiling that we should be having the kids as far as this is concerned? Frankly, there is no real answer towards that one. Infinite growth is definitely not sustainable. Yeah, there is going to essentially be a point where the population is going to shrink. But to be honest, that really isn't kind of a hard limit. Okay, yeah, I think I kind of yeah, I'm trying to get at this from another angle and try and figure out exactly what it is he's asking. At this point, it's long already kind of gotten through my head that this individual is looking for a productive discussion. But I'm trying anyway. I'm trying to be, you know, a good host. Poor naive past me, though. Really want to watch for. Yes, you want to watch for it at that point, but to be honest, that's really not where we're focusing here today, is where is
I'm
that
not
ceiling
either.
at.
I'm not either. I'm not saying whether there should be more, whether there should be less. I'm saying what defines how much that you should have, not as in a ceiling or whatever. I'm saying what defines
No, it's
it.
how
That way
many
we.
Sorry, I need a moment. I need to process that. So, a few seconds earlier, he's saying what you know, is like what is you start to see where I'm coming from this. It's a whole again mentality. What are you saying? What am I hearing? What I'm hearing is that he wants to know, like, what ah yeah, this is definitely frustrating because it's hard to really wrap my skull around this, because he keeps trying to weasel out from under me and I'm trying to pin this fucker to the damn wall.
you can support.
We can face.
It's how many you can support.
That makes sense, but that's not what I mean. I mean, like, again, like GDP. How do you conceptualize GDP growing? It can't simply be, or military growing or something like that. It can't simply be by having more children. Like, generally economics, they consider if you grow the production value of a country, and then like the export value just as well. That's how you grow GDP. That's their theory of how GDP grows. But just having more kids is like really shallow argument for it. So I'm curious what the more fundamental.
What? What? I don't. Uh, yeah, you can. You can probably tell by now that I am just even listening back on this, because you know this happened during the show last night and it's the next day and I'm sitting down here. I'm really trying to puzzle it out, and you know I'm expecting Tom and his fam to show up and it's like, bro, don't try to make any sort of sense in this. And I know and understand that, but there's apparently a masochistic part of me that just desperately wants to try and understand. You know, I've been called a closed-minded individual before. Here I am trying to open my mind and understand where the other side is coming from, and it's getting twisted in knots. Alright, I think I'm just going to try and power through to the end here.
Part of your framework is that justifies having more kids, and even more so how that can influence and tell us, you know, like economy and all that kind of stuff.
See, now what you're talking about is you're talking about keeping that balance between liberal economics and illiberal economics, and we just went over that. Yes, the illiberal economics is absolutely fucking crazy and makes no sense. There's a lot of stuff in there that isn't clearly... Okay, I'm gonna start skipping ahead because there's, it's now me just basically trying to re-go over it, because what I'm thinking now is that this individual was not present when we started the stream and he wasn't paying attention, and I'm trying to catch him up. Let me skip through, see if I can really grind down here a little bit more. Defined, and it's not meant to be. Being frontiersmen out there, getting them new
like progress as in like
Progressive.
as over us. No, this is something that Tom and I vehemently disagree on. Tom thinks we should pump the brakes and deindustrialize a little bit and get back to getting people doing physical labor. Yes. Me, I'm of a different mindset. I want to accelerate our technology process and reach the stars, so that all these people that are sitting around doing nothing, they have somewhere else to go and begin the process, you know, on basically colonizing the stars and being frontiersmen out there, getting them new challenges beyond what we have to sharpen their minds and bodies like we are now.
Yeah, but I'm a pragmatist. I believe, you know what I'm saying, that individuals living a proper life as a whole, you know what I'm saying, is better than, you know, I mean, having the ability to reach the stars or have more technology. I don't think technology makes us better human beings.
Okay, yeah, I mean, Tom and I don't agree on everything. This is definitely one of those things where we clash, and I think we're just going to see who can out-stubborn the other. But I don't think that's really a fight either of us are really going to win. I think we're both pretty firmly entrenched in our beliefs there. But that doesn't mean we can't discuss things and, you know, get along civilly. And, you know, Tom and I have had that kind of civil discussion before.
Right? That's the issue. You know, I mean, like, human beings aren't really, like, you know, I mean, better with technology. They're worse as a whole, like as people, as animals.
So that's a negative, a negation of technology's progress. So I'm curious now what y'all's definition of progress is.
Well, that gets more into the resource. Okay, yeah, he's trying to switch tracks here. This is definitely, this is another red flag I picked up on while we were having this discussion. He's trying to weasel out an angle for another angle. Like, at this point, it is running through my mind that he's looking for, you know, a reason, an excuse to attack us for our beliefs. Because you'll probably hear later on here, you know, he starts accusing Tom of being a terrible human being, and, you know, later on in the thing, Tom and I kind of get into this whole wistful conversation about being better human beings. You know, Tom is anything but a terrible human being. You know, anything, if I'd argue, he's definitely a better one than I am. Resource curse, as we talked about it. When you have an overabundance of a certain amount of resource, you know, you can only fit so many people into processing that, and everyone else lives off government checks. Case in point, modern construction road work, especially those done by the government. You ever notice how you go outside them and you only see one person digging the ditch that the hole is going to go into, and you've got 6 people standing around? Well, the 6 people are going to stand around and get paid doing absolutely nothing while one guy does all the work. It's not conducive to any sort of challenging those people and making a better road, because at the end of the day, a government-maintained road turns out to be shit and full of potholes.
Yes.
So how do y'all define progress then? So we can define whether we're...
Okay, yeah, this is definitely the point where Tom and I realized we're dealing with another dip. You know, as Tom will get into when I asked about dip. Let's talk about the etymology of the word is. Oh, God. I might have to ask him for screenshots of that particular conversation, or if he's got a clip for that. It's going to be a fucking train wreck. I want to know, but at the same time, I know it's going to be so horrible that I won't want to look at it, but I can't look away.
Like,
whether you're achieving what you want.
What if I don't like progress?
That's
as
semantics.
A whole? Like, I don't really care about progress.
Well, then you can't talk. Then you can't meaningfully talk about what you say, like technology is bad or that.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah, he found what he was looking for. I don't know why. I don't understand why, but he found what he was looking for, and it was an excuse to basically attack Tom and say, you can't talk about this because you don't understand. He doesn't seem to understand that Tom and I have differing values, and, you know, Tom's opinion that we need to deindustrialize is certainly a legit prospective. Just as mine is just the direction I want to take is also a legit option. They're options. That's what we're really talking about here, is to get people thinking about different options we can go. It doesn't, preclude people from talking or discussing or even having these conversations or discourse debates. I think this is why it's so bewildering to me, is that he's looking for a reason to discredit Tom, then sit down and have any kind of prospective discussion. He's not here for a discussion, he's here to try to shut Tom down. By extension, me as well, but shrug.
You should advance the stars, because what does that even mean? That means that you believe there's a value structure and that you progress inside it. But if you're like, oh, we don't care about value structures or progress.
That means I want human beings to be human beings. Right?
Now you're diving into where Tom and I disagree on what is American culture. You're starting to weight track us a little bit too bit. Yes, you are. That is exactly what you're doing.
I'm not interested in American culture. I'm interested in what y'all define progress as.
Yeah, look, I don't care about progress.
Yeah, I just told you.
Then y'all can't meaningfully talk about anything you're talking about.
We can too, because this is an anti-progressive ideology.
Okay, yeah, this is where I feel the hate starting to come out. Yeah. Alright, yeah, he definitely kind of came after me a little bit there, and I was not happy. Alright, let me see if I can just skip to the end here and just show you what the end result, we knew it was coming.
No, not progress.
People weak, not strong enough to be able to support themselves and support their community.
Or even just live better as a human being. Like I said here and I go...
It's basically the guy who's talking it right now.
Why is that?
Because it makes us worse. Here, and I literally
said, well, guess what?
You are a stupid human being.
That's technology.
You are a stupid human being.
You don't know what you're talking about. You're a retarded faggot. You're a retarded faggot. Shut the fuck up, you dumb.
Thank you, buddy.
Wow, that was a fucking leftist parasite if I ever saw one.
Jesus Christ!
Are you fucking kidding me?
Couldn't take that. Fuck. But what you were getting at, Noid, saying about how all the fucking everything helping everyone out, like the fucking social programs, fucking medications and shit, fucking welfare, food stamps. It is making people weak, not strong enough to be able to support themselves and support their community.
Or even just live better as a human being. Like I said here and I go...
It's basically the guy who's talking it right now. He wants us to be better humanitarians.
Better
and that's
people,
what Tom is saying.
Better animals. I said human, and I said you're not... They're making it worse human animals, right? Like it's basic biology. Like if you...
All right. I think that's enough there. Yeah, I definitely spent way too long just sitting here kind of commentating on this one. It's really one I want to get into. I mean, I'll probably spend a little bit of time on that. I hate people that do this. I don't understand why they insist on doing this the way they do. They're ultimately looking for a reason to attack and go after anybody they necessarily disagree with. And that's really what happened that night. And it doesn't make any sense to me. Why do you do this? Like, here I am trying to be, at least this is how I feel about it. I'm trying to be an open-minded individual, understand what the point he's trying to make is, and so we can have a fucking discussion about it, even though I can already tell, just from the way he's talking, that's not his goal. And it baffles me, because that's what the people who stand on the... I used to think in this whole left-right paradigm as well, and I think I'm starting to grow beyond that, because I can't even really classify the people who disagree with me as even leftist or progressive or even regressive anymore. It's just the people who stand in opposition to me at this point. And I don't know. Maybe that's a sign I am, growing as a human myself, that I'm starting to shed some of these labels that, I still use just so I can fucking keep communicating. As I talked about in in my response video to the RubyTuber collaboration videos, I believe I went on a brief tangent about communication and how it's breaking down, because we keep coming up with all these new terms, new phrases, and all this other stuff, and it's being used as part of psyops. All right, when I say psyops, gentlemen, I'm not talking specifically about what you would think CIA, military intelligence stuff. That's guys, this isn't a fucking CIA conspiracy. Everybody does psyops one way or another. It's just that the military coined it so that they could label it for their department, which itself is, goes back into that whole labeling thing so that we can understand them properly. But the fact that we're twisting these things into things that are easy to understand, or at least we're trying to, and instead we're making shit up specifically to confuse and baffle people outside the whole thing. Like fucking, there was this ADL article that was going around, and Tom and I were talking about it early before the show even started. Everybody on his server, we were having a laugh at it, and how the ADL is just the stupid, most retarded thing who doesn't understand Rule 33 of the internet, lurk more, it is never enough. Because they sit there, they talk about the classical pills, and it's like, they're like, the blue pill represents the Democrats, while the red pill describes the conservative. Bro, who the fuck are you, and have you even watched The Matrix? Because we actually had a non-American on the show last night, and he's like, I don't understand like the red pill, blue pill thing. So I break it down for him, and I literally describe the whole origin of where it came from. It's the guy we're discussing is famous for making it a meme, and making the whole thing mainstream. But the origin of the red pill, blue pill, it comes from the Matrix, and it's not the whole blue Democrat, red Republic. No, that's not what it's about. The blue pill means that you never learn the truth of the world around you. The red pill unhooks you from the Matrix, and you see the world for what it truly is. That's where it comes from. And it's really stupid, because apparently they think that they've lurked enough. It's never enough. You must lurk more, because then they started. They had the blue pill, the red pill, the white pill, the black pill. Those are all definitely current. Even though the description was terrible, at least those are the real things. Then they start getting into fucking, the pink pill, the green pill. Oh my god, it was the stupid fucking green pill. The dog pill, reverse dog, iron pill, the PB, or like the pedophile pill. Jesus Christ. See, that's what I'm talking about. They're making shit up to confuse and baffle people who are trying to learn what this is. And the best response I can really give to people who want to understand internet culture as a whole, Rule 33, not to be confused with Rule 34. Rule 33, lurk more. It's never enough. Even the rules of the internet got changed around a little bit, and while some of the more famous rules still hold the same numbers, some of the rules got changed around, and they've got different numbers. Like at this point, people are just making up rules to add to the list for the lulz, and that's perfectly fine. But when you lurk more, and you watch and listen, you'll learn a lot more. It's basically, if people ask me, oh, how are you so smart? The answer I'd give them is, I lurk more. I sit and I lurk. I watch. I learn. I am silent until, I can ease my way into the community. And it's really how I've gotten accepted into a lot more communities than not, though. I mean, I don't really stick around that long. Right, but just looking back on it, it's like I knew where this as Tom would say, I knew where this midwit was coming from. And I knew what his goal was, but I tried to engage him anyway. And it's frustrating because that's what, the people who are on the opposing side of me say that that me and those like me that I associate with don't do. It's like they're sitting here, oh, we need to be more tolerant and open and understanding, and you don't know how to do that because you're a fucking Nazi bigot. And I kind of have to quirk an eyebrow at that, because it's like, wow, that's quite the projection. I guess a quick personal story before I go ahead and sign off here is, when I was younger and did not understand the whole regressive movement the way it has evolved today. Like, this was back in the early 2010s. This stuff wasn't exactly well defined, like the video on the Gamergate that I linked in my White Knight Vitting video stated. We didn't understand what was going on until Orange Man Bad in 2016. But there was a person, it was a female, and she gathered a lot of us up. We were the kind of the outcasts. I played Star Wars: The Old Republic. Yeah, I know. Not surprising, but it was a roleplay server, and then I was big into the whole roleplay scene. Yes, I know. Shame me. Yeah, try and shame me. It ain't gonna work. I'm fucking proud of what I do as a role player. It's theater for me. I love theater. If you can't tell from the readings, I love theater. She kind of gathered up a whole bunch of people and, kind of made her own little group down there. And yes, I will admit, I ended up having the biggest crush on her. And then it was later I figured out, how really insidious it kind of all was. Because she would pay attention to you, make you feel special, and then kind of drag you into the group. And once you were in the group, she was the queen bee and everybody paid attention to her. And then this is how she would lure people in one by one. And when I understood this, I was able to fight that attraction to her a little bit more easily. I really feel like I couldn't break free because at the time I had no other social interactions with people. I'm not very good at keeping social circles. Like, I have to wear the mask everywhere I go, because when the mask comes off, and, I try to, I show people the real me, and everything that I am, it's the same thing, big weeby loser, that's me. I'm into all the weird shit that everyone says we should shame and, do this. I have to hide all that when I first enter into a group. Because, when the mask comes off and I say this, this is what I am, do you accept me? Never ends well. And that's kind of where we were going with this group. I was trying to be human rather than be a monster. And it turns out, she was this huge gold star lesbian and whatnot, and that's kind of, it was like, okay, well, I got no chance anyway. But it was still a social group. And, well, it really wasn't that big a deal to me. It's like, okay, it turns out she's a homosexual, and I got no problems with it. She's still a friend. Hey, do you fucking mind, boy? Fucking hanging out station, you're gonna get this kind of traffic. You know, her being a homosexual and a lesbian wasn't that big a deal to me. Yeah, it kind of crushed any hopes of getting together, which was probably for the best in the long run, as I tell you the ending to the story. But she was still a friend, and I still tried to treat her as such. You know, she brought in a lot of other homosexuals into the group as well, because, you know, they kind of flocked together at that point in time. And, you know, again, wasn't that big a deal to me. It's like, as long as the gay men weren't hitting on me, you know, that does make me a little bit uncomfortable. I'm going to be real and upfront about that, because it does. But, you know, ultimately, at the end of the day, I have no real issue with them. But I thought my interactions, you know, were you know, the actions and tone of somebody who, you know, saw you as a friend and did not demean you for your orientation. Well, I don't know. Apparently something I missed or said, because to this day it still bothers me that they can't do this. You know, one of them accused me of being homophobic, bigoted, and what all this other stuff. And this isn't the first time I've had these accusations by the group flung my way. So when I sat down and said, okay, show me the proof, otherwise I'm calling you the liar for what you are. Well, you know, we have these screenshots, we can't actually provide them, but, you know, it is like proof. And I said, until you show me the proof, you're a liar, and I'm going to maintain that stance. And, you know, I can't stand liars. So eventually it kind of got to the point where it was like, all right, you know what? Y'all don't actually have any evidence against me. Y'all just want to fucking bully me for, you know, something I said that even I can't understand why you think it's homophobic. So I said, all right, you know what? You did this to me once before. I'm done. I'm not hanging around for strike 3. Peace. I'm out. And I haven't been with that group since. I maybe tried to reach out once or twice to those people, but it's been radio silence since. And that's kind of what I'm talking about when I say I don't really have the best rapport with some of these groups. Again, you know, I try to be open-minded. Maybe I stumble over my few words, but I don't try to really hate anyone unless they give me a reason to. And stupid people, most of all, give me the biggest reason. Which is why I can't fucking stand these mental gymnastic types. Because they twist everything they do, and when you try to sit down and understand them, they don't want to be understood. They're just there to pick a fight. And it's boring. It's the same thing every time. It's so fucking boring and hypocritical, and I hate hypocrites. You know, if you're sitting here probably listening to this now, you're probably typing out in the comments section, you know, but you're the biggest hypocrite of all, sitting there saying stuff one way and then doing it the other. Yes. I'm not someone who is, you know, lacking self-awareness. And I hate myself the worst of all for it. I hate people when they're being hypocrites to me. But you think that, you know, I can't recognize that I am the biggest hypocrite of all when I do the exact same thing. I do realize it, and, you know, it's definitely hurt my self-esteem for it. Because I hate myself as much as, you know, I hate people who are hypocrites. Because I do consider myself capable of being a hypocrite. And I hate myself when I do it. Anyway, I think I've rambled on long enough about that, but I just really wanted to kind of address this and really get it out there, because, again, I cannot stand it when people do this. And really, this isn't even my first rodeo, so I don't know why, you know, this is weighing on me as much as it is. Again, maybe like I said, maybe it's just because this is the first time, you know, I've had to stand here and defend my, you know, I've had to face this kind of person in this kind of public environment where it's like, you know, short of the cameras being on and short of being you know, it's about as close to person as this is the closest I've got to having this kind of encounter in person. Maybe that's why it's hitting home so hard. So, you know, it's kind of useless for me to sit here and plea for these maniacs to just stop. Stop it. Get some help. You know. Or perhaps, you know, my voice doesn't matter, and just as always, I am screaming into the void about this.